Hey guys, we're here at the RD Hidden Speakeasy. You got to set it up. You got to know a password. We were invited by Benziger, Chris Benziger of Benziger Wines and Imagery Wines. We shared some beautiful wine, some beautiful stories. He told us the stories behind the wine. We shared some food. A really cool place. I'll kind of give you a tour around as we do it. Look at the charcuterie board. And without further ado, let's kick this off. Here is Chris Benziger.
Hi guys. Cheers. I'm here with Chris Benziger.
You got it.
Thank you for sharing your passion for enology and your beautiful wines with the world.
John, thank you, and can't wait to see you out there in California. Kick the dirt clods with you at the vineyards. It's a beautiful spot. And all you people out there, you got to come and visit and see what we do out there on Sonoma Mountain. It's pretty fun.
Cheers. Make sure you guys pick up some beautiful Benziger and Imagery wines.
Cheers.
First of all, we just want to say thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. We are excited to have you here tonight. I am excited to introduce Chris Benziger of the Benziger Family Wines. He's going to give you more of a bio and do justice to it than I ever could.
Now is a great time to go to your wine rack, grab a bottle, get your favorite stemware, pour yourself a glass, go sit down, nestle in, and get ready to be entertained. It's going to be a fun night. This is the first in a series, so enjoy.
And you guys, this is, I don't want to be a talking head, so if you have questions, this is all supposed to be fun. And what a cool setting to be in a speakeasy. I mean, this is ideal. Normally you're doing this in the back of a restaurant and you hear the service going on and you got to yell over it, so this is very, very cool. And I can't actually believe I'm here right now because not 24 hours ago, we were hit with what they called a bomb cyclone in Sonoma yesterday. We had winds of over 100 mile an hour on the ridges and 60 mile an hour in the vineyards. It was the biggest storm I've seen since I've been there in almost 40 years. It was nuts. Thank God got a lot of trees down, which is always sad, but not a lot of flood dead, but it was amazing when you see Mother Nature angry. It's a pretty awesome spectacle. We actually had a tornado, first ever tornado in Sonoma. Not near us, out on the coast, but they had a funnel cloud. It was like, oh my God, I guess we're right up there with Dorothy now. Anyway, we're going to be tasting 3 different wines, brands, wineries, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to kind of take you on a quick little history. First of all, I got to be honest, I come from a long line of boozers. Okay? My family's been in the booze business for over a century. My grandfather was an honest-to-God bootlegger. He used to run whiskey from the Canadian Maritimes into New York City. That's where my family's originally from. We're New Yorkers. Don't throw rocks. And then my dad was an importer. He came back from the war. He took over my grandfather's business, legalized it. He was an importer, bringing in a lot of French champagnes and wines, Armagnacs, and a lot of Scotch too. We always joke, because my dad was a big Scotch drinker, that it was the winery that whiskey built. But it was my brother, my oldest brother. I'm the youngest of 7. I got 4 other brothers, 2 sisters, 19 nieces and nephews. This is what happens when you don't have any television and you make a lot of wine and you're Catholic. It's the baby making machine formula. But my oldest brother was working for my dad. This is the early 70s, and we started to see the first couple California wines come across. And back then you didn't go to a Marriott, you stayed at someone's house, and they would stay at our house. And like Jack Cakebread, and they would tell us these adventures about starting these vineyards up in this very new business called the California wine business. Well, my brother, he loved wine. He thought to make wine you had to go over to France. And when he heard that they were doing it in California, he was like, oh, I want a piece of this. And he left, he went out. And unfortunately his compass was broken because he ended up in Livermore and not Sonoma or Napa, which I could not figure out. But he got a job as a winemaker and learned the craft. It took him about 5 years. And he felt he knew enough, and he had that dream. He wanted to start a winery. But where do you go when you got big dreams and no money? You go back to the old man, right? So he came back home to New York, and I remember we all sat down at this big table, a Sunday dinner, and he was saying, hey, I want to start a family winery, and I want all you guys to help me run it. And there was my dad sitting at the head of the table. He had his scotch. He had this big grin on his face. I thought maybe he had 1 scotch too many. But he goes, I like it. And we're thinking, oh, wow, okay, we may retire to California in 5, 10, 15 years, kind of retirement. In 6 short months, 6 months, We were moving from the metropolis of New York City, the skyscrapers and subways, 3,000 miles to the bucolic hillsides of a very rustic Sonoma, California, to the little town of Glen Ellen. And the ranch that we bought, that Mike found, was first settled in the 1860s, and then Prohibition, they shut the front gate, and for 55 years it was a ghost town. Nobody was there. When we bought it from a crazy doctor, and he was growing some really great Cabernet. That then his Cabernet was going to Kenwood for their Artist Series wines. But hidden in the oak trees and the manzanita, he had the other cash crop of California, marijuana. And he would blend it into a wine he called Cannabis Sauvignon. He was way ahead of his time. The locals just called it Sonoma Coma. And it was quite popular, I'm told. So my family moves out there, 1980 this is, and 13 of us in the first wave. And we move out to this beautiful old ranch. And we shot our wad on buying the property. We couldn't afford a construction crew. We couldn't afford a vineyard crew. But we had lots of cheap labor, as my dad would say, with all my brothers and sisters and cousins and all whatnot. And we get up every morning, we either go in the vineyard and plant grapes or build the winery. And we're talking to all the locals back there. They said, when is the harvest? Oh, after Labor Day. Probably the 7th of September. That's when we usually get grapes. So that's what we kind of planned on. And every summer we're going, that summer we're working, we're building the winery. Our first employee was actually a contractor. And as the summer progressed, the grapes ripened too. And we realized this was going to be an early harvest. And believe it or not, by the time the grapes were ripe, the winery wasn't built yet. It didn't have a roof. It only had the rafters up. It didn't have doors. It had studs you could walk through. We used car headlights to see at night. We used extension cords because the electricity wasn't there yet. But worst of all, we didn't have stainless steel tanks. And you need stainless steel. We had ordered them, but we were thinking the harvest was going to be on the 7th, not the 1st, because this is our first harvest, and we were kind of behind the 8 ball. I'll never forget my dad. He was a Marine, he was a character, and he loved characters. And there was a junkyard guy in town that we would buy all this great secondhand equipment from. I wouldn't say it was great, it was secondhand equipment. And his name was, should have been right on Central Casting for Motorcycle Badass. He should have been on Sons of Anarchy. His name was Barry Gold. He was 6'4" or 5", big bushy beard, ponytail, the vest that said Motorcycle Club, the denim, the jingly chains, the big boots. He was a real badass. I was scared to death of him. But Barry always delivered. And I remember my dad calling him up and going, "Hey Barry, my kid screwed up again and he's whining. He says we need stainless steel. You don't happen to have stainless steel in that junkyard?" And Barry's like, "I got stainless steel, Bruno. What do you need?" He goes, "That's great. I need 2,000-gallon stainless steel tanks. But here's the issue. I need it tomorrow." Barry's like, "Sure, I'll get it there first thing in the morning." Hangs up the phone. We're like, "God damn, Barry's got everything in that junkyard." 7:30 the next morning, 2 tow trucks come racing down the driveway. It's dusty then, because we haven't had rain in a while. And you can't quite see what's behind the tow trucks. And as they pull in front and the dust settles, I'll never forget, I was 14 at the time. I'm looking, I see a gleaming aluminum, and I see what looks like a flash dance model lying on a chair with milk dumping on her. It says, "Got milk." And draining out of the plug was milk. Barry had gone to a dairy. We used to have lots of dairies in Sonoma. We don't have any now. Some guy owed him money. He took his dairy tanker trucks, filled with milk, drove them up the hill, drained them, and parked them in front. And that was our stainless steel tanks. My first job was cleaning them out, and not 4 hours later, Sauvignon Blanc was going into a milk truck that morning had milk in it. And we fermented our first harvest in stolen milk trucks. And here's the best part. The following year, we make this wine, and we use dry ice to keep the fermentation temperatures under check. Rube Goldberg couldn't have designed a more complicated harvesting system than we had that year, but the wines turned out pretty good. And back then, there was no Marvin Shankin with the Wine Spectator. There was no Parker with his $1 million nose. There was just the county fair, right? So after apple pies and photography and the 4-H pigs and cows, they had this very serious wine judging for Napa and Sonoma. 752 wines were entered that year of 1980. We entered 3. 2 of our wines, the predecessor to this Sauvignon Blanc, this is why the story's happening, won the sweepstakes, best wine of the show. Made in that milk truck. And it taught us a lesson that we hold true then And what's great now, because with the whole nother generation, is it's not the shiny tanks, it's not the pretty gardens or any of that BS, it's not the PR, but it's something more intrinsic. It's that attention to detail, it's that family passion. And that's what I love most about my business is I've watched it from one generation pass to the next. And that's what I want to talk about with these wines here is my family's passion in the almost 45 years that we've been growing grapes on Sonoma Mountain. So that's kind of who we are. Any questions?
Why didn't you do Chardonnay?
Huh?
Why didn't you do Chardonnay in the middle?
We did Chardonnay in the other one.
Oh, that's right.
Guess what the runner-up was?
Chardonnay.
Chardonnay.
Yeah.
No one's done that ever since, and we're pretty proud of that. It was Les Pierre Chardonnay. And anyone know where the Les Pierre vineyard is now? Sonoma. Yeah. Okay. Any questions?
Should we pour the next one?
Yeah. Okay. I think has everyone had the Sauvignon Blanc? I'm going to talk about that in a minute. How about the Chardonnay? You've all had the Chardonnay? Oh shit. Okay. Let's get the. We were waiting. Let's get the Benziger Chardonnay in your glasses now.
Yeah.
How's that sound?
So I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to Benziger wines. Here I am with Chris. We had a great night. This is the first in a series. We'll have more stories, so come back and check him out. He'll talk us through some of the more tasting notes on these wines, and make sure that you look for these wonderful wines at your retailer. And we'll see you soon. See you soon here at the Chef's Backyard. Bye-bye.